Are you scared of being fired? Well, don't be. A little known fact is that my human resources department is far more afraid of me than I am of the boss.
Whether you're a slacker or whether you know a slacker, our next guest, who is not a slacker, is here to give us the scoop on why it's so hard to be fired for poor performance. Joining us now is Stanley, being a columnist at Fortune magazine and author of the book Crazy Bosses. Welcome to the program.
Nice to be here.
Why is it hard these days to get somebody? How hard is it to be fired in corporate America?
Well, it's pretty hard, and you know, in my opinion, it should be hard. You know, it should be hard to fire people. People depend on their jobs. You know, there are a lot of incompetent people who keep their jobs, and they're there as examples to aspire to over a long term. So
also, they make us look better, right?
They make people look better, and also, you know, there are a lot of people in the upper regions who you wonder how do they keep their jobs. So, you know, the question is, I mean, the answer is it should be hard. But it's very, very hard, and the person really has to mess up big time in order.
So we all know people. I might be one of them who we work with who people think should be fired.
I don't think you should be fired.
But
or why do they have that job?
Why do they have that job?
Exactly the thing that most people ask about people like me. You know, how did they get that job, and how do I get a job like that? You know, but the question is, how do people hang in there over a long haul? And the answer is by being consistent and not doing anything dramatic that gives the management a reason to toss them out the hermetically sealed window.
In corporate America, it's extraordinarily expensive to fire somebody, isn't it?
It is at a certain level, but you know, I mean, there are processes in place in most corporations. You know, if you're the boss and you're really unhappy, you keep a file, you give a person warning, you handle it in a business-like fashion. The days when people can sort of walk in and go, you know, I don't like what you're wearing, you're fired, or I'm in a bad mood, I didn't like my muffin this morning, you're fired. You know, all that stuff is, you know, certain examples notwithstanding on television is pretty rare to see, and you know, I sort of think it should be. It shouldn't be hard to fire somebody who really is lousy, though, you know.
the issue is what's lousy, what causes. I mean, what you're talking about is people who, when you say embarrass the boss or embarrass the company,
right.
That's easy to identify.
Well, there are several things. I mean, first of all, there are crucial moments when you're called upon to perform, right? I mean, everybody knows what it is. It's game day. You know, the stakes are big. You know, it's a breaking story here or something like that, or in the workplace, it could be the day they announce earnings or a major announcement of some sort,
right.
And that person just doesn't. You know, is not there. How about being there is like, as Woody Allen said, 99% of the job, you know? And you'd be amazed at how many people show up on a game day in the wrong outfit, or they're a little late. You know, people have a desire to punch themselves in the nose sometimes, and they're late. So being there is good, and performing in critical times. And then, as you just said, not causing embarrassment for the person who you work for, because that's rough.
Let me ask you about the dead weight. Everyone thinks in their own workplace they can identify the people who they think are dead weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is the dead wood, the dead weight, already been whittled out? I mean, is the low-hanging fruit been picked, sort of, with all of the...
To some extent, the dead wood is kind of gone for most corporations because it's like a sponge that's been
right.
squeezed over several years. Of course, there is always dead weight in sort of upper, senior, middle management, and that's why we have executive departure lounges in most of our buildings. I mean, I'm sure there's one in this building, a whole floor with people that have kind of disappeared in the Soviet sense, but are still being paid for one way or another. There are those folks too, and that's you know, it's interesting because they'll say, you know, so-and-so was fired but is still making money, is getting a package. It's really hard to be fired, personally. You know, I mean, to have yourself fired it's rough. It takes a long time to get over, and that's why people take some time to get a new job afterwards.
Do people look to get fired? I mean, everybody's got this fantasy of having a confrontation with their employer, but... Well,
you know, there's a number of things. One is the emotional satisfaction, if you want that, over a period of time of going in there and saying, I quit. Usually you should have another job, just a tip.
Right.
You know, the other thing is there's a certain level of corporate life where if you're fired, it's like paradise.
Right.
It's heaven. You know, you've got a big package, you're on the beach, you're talking to reporters about, you know, what you would do if you were running this or that company. I mean, we all dream of that. So,
but
so
that's the cream. There's an awful lot of other people who get fired.
Oh, it just stinks. It's terrible. It's terrible.
So
you don't want to do it to people if you can help it. You know, the obvious thing with somebody who's not working out is to say to them, look, you know, you're not working out very well. Why don't you take some time, take 3 months, take 6 months, do what you need to do. And that, I think, is a good way to deal with it. But then there are people who are just intolerable, and you just can't stand to look at them. And and then they can be posted to weird locations, I guess, or given like road jobs that you never see them. But it is very tough to get rid of people, and but sometimes it's really worth it. I mean, the weight off your shoulders as a boss to not have to have a person around filling a job that could be filled with a better person. That's a good feeling. To not have to see, you know, Jack anymore, who you just, you know, couldn't stand for years. It's a liberation. It's a lovely feeling.
Well, Stanley, the book's a good read, and everything you write's a good read. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
All right, still to come on Your Money, a retired soldier who's putting his golf game to work for some injured war vets. We'll be right back.